Well, it's a show about seven total strangers who have all committed crimes of one sort or another, but instead of going to prison, they have to work together doing community service. And in the course of that, they start to make connections and friendships, but they also get embroiled in a kind of crime conspiracy that's going on behind the scenes. And that's the sort of that's the sort of overview of the show. And it originated in part from me because my parents used to be involved with community service when I was growing up. They would supervise criminals, and it always seemed like an interesting backdrop for a show because you have these very unlikely groups of people being forced to work together. And so I went to Elgin with that idea, that was a very kind of skeletal idea, and then we worked it up together, and here we are.
Here we are.
Nice. And Elgin, can you tell us a little bit what inspired you guys to even write the series in the first place?
I think it came, at the time is, Stephen was just saying it was like when Trump was happening here, when Brexit was happening there, and everyone just really felt divided, and you felt yourself, and you felt triggered all the time, and just intentionally, no matter, people were trying to pull your triggers, and you also just felt triggered all the time. And we were starting to sort of like mourn that. This was early on. This is like 6-7 years ago when we started. And then it was just the excitement of starting to talk about this and talk about these characters that may have seemed like stereotypes intentionally on the outside. And then you crack open and they had so much more in common and they had so much more depth. And we stopped seeing each other in each other. And Steve and I were the kind of the perfect metaphor for that, because from the outside, we look very different. We're from very different places and background, but we actually have so much in common. And we found just this sort of like, really strong friendship in this, and how much we had in common, our viewpoints on life. And so we actually it was a perfect partnership because we became the billboard for the show is actually what happened. That's what's so great about it. It's just about, in our existence, we are the show.
That's right.
Nice. And I know like each episode you guys kind of dive deep into like different characters and why they were even in the community in the first place. So which character was your favorite to create?
That's a tough one. Steve, you go first.
Yeah, I think what is interesting about doing a show like this is it gives you an opportunity to try and get into the headspace of different characters that are from a different, political point of view to you, or different social place, and that is a kind of a challenge, and there's also what's most stimulating about working on a show like this. So even the character of John, who, for instance, is very kind of right wing and kind of quite extreme and doesn't necessarily share views that we would hold, but it's still interesting to kind of explore a character like that and try and see where they're coming from, rather than simply making them a bad guy. Can you sort of try to understand what's led them to that place? And I think that's sort of true of all the characters in a way, and that's the joy and the challenge of any kind of writing project, is trying to get into the head of a character that you wouldn't necessarily agree with or even like if you met them in the street.
Right.
And that was great about John, and we talk about it, and with Myrna, is that they'd be saying things you would agree with. Like Myrna would say something that you would completely agree with, and then John would pull the rug out from underneath it, and you would just completely agree with that too, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, she's a studious and super intelligent young woman who has got into Oxford University on a scholarship, but has a penchant for stealing clothes and jewelry and stuff. Yeah.
And Gamba?
My character, he's a security guard. He works at a nightclub, and he's the sole carer for his younger sister Esme. And I don't want to give too much away because obviously, it's integral to the storyline. So I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, and what made you want to join this project?
Well, Stephen, first and foremost, being somebody with such a huge and reputable CV, you'd want to work with those experienced actors so you can continue to learn and grow as we come up. And he wrote a fantastic story, him and Elgin, and that first and foremost. For me, also the character that was written, is written in a city called Bristol in the UK, which I'm born in, so I already had a familiarity with that area and sort of the different accent that you would have, and just sort of that place. So I already felt connected to the character and to the story as well. So those things first and foremost were the ones that drew me the most. But yeah.
Yeah, and Rhianne, what made you want to join this project?
Yeah, I think it was mainly Stephen, and then the story and the script. He's such an icon of British TV and has been part of such like huge TV shows. And he was kind of part of it in so many facets, in directing and writing, producing, acting. It was just so, he just knew it inside and out, and it was lovely to have that on set and to be able to work with someone who birthed it. That was really exciting.
Yeah, and as a daughter of two immigrants myself, I did see similarities in the character that you play. Do you have any similarities to the character that you played?
Yeah, my dad's kind of strict. I've actually never thought about that. I always think about the characters like me, but then actually, in terms of a background, my dad's an immigrant, and he's very strict. It was great because I felt really loved, but it was, there's a pressure of achievement, I think,
yes,
for me, in my family, and an expectation of greatness. And in some ways that's great because they believe in you, but in some ways that's like terrifying because you can fail,
Right.
Yeah.
And both of you guys' characters had a strong dynamic in the show, which I really liked. Was there anything that you guys did to prepare for the roles that you guys played and working with each other?
Emma?
Not necessarily, because we've worked together before. So, we've already sort of built a trust, an on-set trust and rapport and a friendship off screen. Rhianne's one of the few actors that are, that I would call a friend in this industry. Do you know what I mean? We are really close, and it just made it really easy because, she creates an environment which allows you to try different things, and she's so receptive to that and will respond accordingly, and it just makes things so easy. So yeah, it was fun.